Did you tell them?
Tell who what? I tell my parents lots of things.
Yeah, I know you do. I'm 25, and I've spent most of my adult life keeping a specific thing invisible. When I was 9, my grandfather died and left behind more money than I knew how to hold in my head, and my mother put almost all of it somewhere I couldn't touch and sat me down very carefully and said, "This doesn't change anything about how you live." By the time I was in my early 20s, I'd built a version of my life that I actually liked. A job in project coordination that pays fine, an apartment that's a little small, a habit of ordering medium-priced wine and splitting everything down the middle without making it a conversation. The only two people who knew the full picture were my mother and my friend Marcus, who I've known since we were 11 and who has never once, in 14 years, made it weird. When I started dating Claire, it was different from the beginning in the way where you can't quite explain it, but you're also not sure if that's good or just unfamiliar. We'd been together about 8 months when I decided to tell her, which is something I had genuinely never done before, not even close. The number I gave her was the real number, 40 million, give or take, sitting in a trust that still had my grandfather's name attached to it. Sometime around last autumn, her parents started being a different version of fine, which was harder to name but easier to feel. Richard started texting me directly, which he hadn't before. Just small things. An article he thought I'd find interesting. A question about whether I'd ever considered commercial real estate as a conceptual exercise.
She's just asking. She does that with everyone.
No, I know it's fine.
She likes you. That's literally all it is.
I said it's fine.
You're doing the thing where you say it's fine and it's not fine.
Her mom started asking, with a warmth that was maybe 1 degree too consistent, about where I saw myself in 5 years, what my long-term thinking looked like, whether I had people helping me be smart about my position in life. That phrase landed a little flat, but I let it slide. Her dad, Richard, is the kind of 54-year-old who has a very specific way of sitting at the head of a table that tells you everything you need to know about how he thinks the evening should go. Before last autumn, they were fine. Nice dinners, polite questions, the usual script. The version of them that started showing up in autumn was harder to place.
I'm not pushing anything, just putting it out there.
No, I appreciate it.
These are guys who've been around long enough that they don't need to make noise about it.
Dad, he said he'd think about it.
I know, I'm just saying the offer stands.
Yeah, good to know. There was a Sunday dinner in November where Richard leaned across the table and said that he had some contacts in wealth management, guys he'd known for 20 years, very discreet, very good, and that if I ever wanted an introduction, he could make it happen without any pressure attached. It was so casual. I said something like, "That's really thoughtful, I'll think about it," and then we talked about something else. I remember driving home that night thinking, that was a little strange. And then I thought, or maybe that's just what fathers do when they start taking you seriously. I let myself believe the second one, mostly because I wanted to.
You don't have to do that every time.
It's one car, it doesn't matter.
I know, but people notice.
What do you mean people notice?
Nothing, just you do it kind of automatically and it stands out a little.
Right. The next few weeks were ordinary enough that I stopped thinking about it. We went to a birthday thing for one of Claire's friends, a group of about 12 people, and at the end of the night everyone was splitting an Uber home, and there was this small shuffle about who was covering the first car, and I offered, just automatically, the way I always do in group situations because it's easy. I noticed one of Claire's friends, Maya, look at me and say something to the person next to her that I didn't catch. At the end of a different dinner in December, Maya said something offhand, something like, "Well, you can obviously afford it," in response to some minor suggestion I'd made. I remember thinking at the time that it was probably just a guess, the kind of vague thing people say when they've picked up some general impression of you. Did you tell them?
Tell who what? I tell my parents lots of things.
Yeah, I know you do.
Is this about my dad? Because he's always like that with people he actually respects.
That's one way to read it. I let it be a guess. It felt easier to let it be a guess. Whether it was actually a guess is something I kept not asking. I thought about Richard and his contacts. The way he said very discreet, like he was offering me something I hadn't asked for, but that he somehow already knew I had. And I thought about how specific a number has to be before it stops being coincidence. I kept coming back to Maya's comment. I kept coming back to Richard's text. The thing I can't quite file is what happened at her parents' house in January, because I wasn't supposed to be there yet. I'd come early to pick Claire up and she wasn't ready and Richard was out, and her mom pointed me toward the living room, and I was walking past the hallway when I heard Claire's voice through a door that was open maybe 2 inches. I wasn't trying to listen, but the house was very quiet, and sound carries in that way it does in houses with hardwood floors and not much furniture. I didn't catch the whole thing. What I caught was a number. A specific number, said in a flat and informational tone, the way you'd read something back to confirm it. And it was my number, the one I had said out loud exactly once, in a different room, in a different season, to her and no one else. I walked back toward the living room and sat down and looked at my phone for a few minutes without reading anything on it. When Claire came out, she looked nice and said sorry for running late, and I said it was no problem. I ordered a drink at dinner and let her talk about her week and asked questions the way I normally would. That was 3 months ago. There's a trip in April that we've more or less settled on. Last week she asked me what I want to do for my birthday next month, and I said I'm not sure yet. And she said she'll plan something small, and I said that sounds good, and we kept making plans for April.